I'm just going to pop this on because that's where it belongs. I have a bit of a problem, and that is I don't have enough fabric for the back. I'm going to be hiding something in plain sight. These are the last two pieces of decent size fabric. I've already done one for the other one. I'm going to measure from here up to there, which is 25, 26. So I'm going to make it 26 needs to possibly show, fold over the top. So I need to make this 28 inches from the base here, which is what runs along the base of the chaise. So I'm going to just cut this off here and the same on the other one so they match. I'll fold along that line, double check my measurements. Where is that? Of course it's on the other side now. Here. So from here to here should be 28 inches. So folding that down in line like that, and then I'm just going to cut along here. I'm going to do the same on the other piece. So I have two sections that match. You can use interlining. This is the cotton wadding that you use inside a quilt. I use it quite a lot in various projects. It's always useful. I've cut it to the same length almost. You don't want to go too wide, but you certainly want it to be 6 inches because you're going to fold it. I want to make sure that I have a pattern repeat going across. So if I fold this into here like that and across, that's it. I've got my pattern repeat. The cross section is only about 2 inches. You need at least an inch to go across. This is 2 inches, only because you want to give the illusion that there's a pleat here, which of course this is going to do. The total width this makes should be at least 36 inches. And if I go all the way across, it gives me 41. I don't want to do it raw edge to raw edge. You just got to play with it. Sometimes you're going to find that it gives you a better crossover, but the pleat is so close here, it's not going to work. These were from the inside arm. I just measured so far in, and this was the leftovers. Line up this edge here. Make sure that that lines here. So that little tree has to go on there and across. This takes a little minute because sometimes your matches don't match properly. They've just got to be as close as possible, which makes it look like it's doing what it's meant to be doing. Put a pin here because that's the top matched. Just because I made it match doesn't mean to say that the fabric actually matches. That's something else you need to remember. The pattern might be slightly different on one side of the fabric than it is on the other. So that is why you need to make sure that this part here in the middle does match up. This one looks like it twists actually from there to there, so that's something else I'm going to have to be careful of. I'm just going to sew along this edge here. I've got the lining on top of these two pieces, and I've actually added a width of fabric because I know that the buttons I'm going to put on come right on the edge of this seam. So by having a little bit of fabric there, it holds everything in place a little bit better. Now if you don't have a walking foot, it might be better if you put the lining on the back first and then this. If it doesn't work out, I'll take it all apart. I will make my way to the other end as evenly as I can. I've got the lining here, the interlining on top, which I'm going to fold over like that, and then this going over as well. I'll roll that slightly. What I need to do is make sure that the pattern is even. So I've got my trees here, I've got this going here on up. Everything has to be even all the way through. Once I'm happy with it, I'm just going to steam this into place like this. Make sure it's nice and firm. Pull the top piece back. That needs to come a little bit further into the crease. So I'm going to iron this separately because that has to be really tight in there. I'm not going to go over the top fabric, just the bottom one like that. Pull that over, and I am going to put another row of sewing down by this crease. I know the line isn't very clear, so if I do this, you'll see where my fold line is. Hold that up so I can see where it is, and I'm going to sew down that line as evenly as I can, because I really don't want the fabric twisting or bunching up. I'm going to make 3 buttons. If I fold this and cut up. I should have the right size for one of them, and I'll show you how I make them. I'm using big ones because I want to make a statement. Anything smaller than this, even on the back, although the back isn't that big, is going to look silly. I think these are 2.5 inch. Pop that over there and bring that in. And now I do opposite sides first, like this. Then once I've got all of those in, I start bringing everything else in, like this. Push them under those teeth, otherwise you're not going to have a nice finish on the front. It's going to be really hard in, like that, so that the front looks nice and smooth and hopefully even. All I have to do is push on the back. This sometimes takes a little minute to do because they don't always want to go in. I'm going to make the other two up. If I run my finger along here, that's as far as my fingers can go because the seam is right there, but it still looks like it's a folded piece of fabric. I just measured the height that I need. It's 25.5 inches, which I'm going to pop here and mark that with a pin going sideways, because that's where it goes underneath the back of the chair, and again at the top where that goes behind the back tacking. Fold that in half, it saves me doing the maths. Line the top and the bottom up and put a pin at that mark where it folds. That is where my middle button is going to go. Then I'm going to fold that over to there where that fold was, press that into place, and lining up that and the top, this is where my top button's going to go, and if I measure from there down, that's where the bottom button is going to go. So I have those marked out. All of them are where I need them. Now I need to know how far in from the outside to there that I need to be. If I measure there to there, it's almost 1/4 inch over. I think that would look pretty good with that much there. Gives you just enough of the fold for you to see without it being too much. If you go like that, it's not going to work. It's too far over. If you go right on the edge, it's not going to work either. So I think that's perfect. Put that mark on the edge there, and with my pen, mark each one. Start in the middle and mark across like that. With my scissors, I'm going to put my fingers under the fabric and through to here, so that should be cut through too. The shank of that I'm going to push through that hole and twist the whole thing over so that I can see it. And this is where the fun begins. I've got my thread here, push that down in the center and pull it all over. If I fold that back, I can see where the shank is here. So if I put my needle through like that and back through like this, put my needle through the shank, because they're so big the buttons are quite flat, which is really quite annoying. Pull it across, put it back through where I originally pulled it. I've used upholstery thread, so it's a little bit thicker. Push that back through like that and through to the other side in a different spot, and I will pull the top thread through as tight as I can, and now my new thread through as tight as I can to hold that into position and just cast off. It's not carrying any weight, it's just holding something in place. It's not like you have to go through 3 times. Going through twice with upholstery thread doubled over should be absolutely perfect. So there's my first one on. Trim that back, flip it all over. Just mark the second one, cutting through the top layer and the interlining, lay it back out. There's my shank. I'm going to put that through that hole, flip it over. Sometimes it takes a little minute to get everything lined up. Sometimes you have to wriggle these into place. Push your shank through so you can see it. Put it over, make sure everything is lined up. Pull from the top and bottom, put your finger down to the other side. It should be more or less where it was on the other one. Just as well I put this on, actually I'm going to go this way this time because it's at the bottom here. Put my needle through the shank and out the other side, pull tight, make sure those threads are even, put it back down in a slightly different place just in case they overlap. You don't want them to interlock just yet. Pull that across and through and pull it really tight and then cast off. And then go on to the last one. It looks like this one is further away from there, but I think it is just an optical illusion. Yeah, it's an optical illusion. There's nothing going on here, but there's quite a bit going on here, which makes it look like it's doing something it isn't. I've got my marks here showing where the base and the top of this goes. And if I measure 1.5 inches, which is the center of each of these, and put a pin going up to hold that in place. I'll do the same here. I'm going to just measure 1.5 inches in, put a pin on this side as well. this is the center. You do not want this line being up here on the center because then your buttons will be pushed over. You want the buttons in the center of the back. Before I attach this to the back, I'm only interested in the top part here. So let's flip that. I will bring this down here because I need that in there, but I'll leave this one here for the moment. My pin I've moved down. That should still be 1.5 inches. Maybe move it over just a wee tad. I'll put it in there. I've left this at the top. That has to stay there for now. I'm going to cut down here at an angle because I need to take some of this bulk out. The top is there. I want that little bit to be in the top, just fold it over slightly. And I'm also going to come in here and cut down there. I don't really want too much of the interlining at the top because it pushes everything out. I think that works. It's not too lumpy. Maybe it is. Take a little bit more of the one behind out. Undo that so it doesn't go all the way through. There's my pin that goes across. I'll take a little bit more of this out, and a little bit more of this out, like that. Fold it over. That's what I want. I don't want it to be too thick. So I am going to measure all the way across. That's 35.5. Fold that in half here. Work out where that center mark is. Here's my center mark. I'm going to put a pin down. What I need to do is center here to the center of here. Pull that back slightly and pin it. You have to work from underneath. I'll flip that over the top. Hold it in place with my hand and then staple. Anywhere along there will do. Then I'll bring it back down. Didn't go up quite high enough. But that's okay because it's in place. I'll put another staple under there. I'm going to remove this pin which denotes the center, pop this up over the back and put the back tacking hard up. Now this is a bit awkward because of the wadding behind there, it makes it a little bit thick. Pop that hard up into there and there. Bring everything forward. It's gone exactly where I need it to. I'm going to follow this pattern across. I've got my two trees here and my pattern comes in right here. I'm going to put that across to where that pattern is, push it hard up into the piping, tip this back over and staple into place. Having stapled it there, I'm just going to pop this hard up against the piping at the top and infill. I'm going to do the same on this side. I'm going to pull this out and make sure that it lines up with the pattern. Repeat on this side. Push the back tacking into place along here like that and secure it like I did on the other side. Maybe that needs to go a little bit further under. It just takes a little minute to maneuver, that's all. Pull the fabric at the top out slightly and secure. Push this in hard against the piping at the top and I'm going to infill. Bring this up over there and secure that just like I always do. I've marked where the center is and it's a little bit heavy, that's why it's twisting. Line up my pin for the center here against my center mark. Here is my other pin which denotes where the bottom is. I'm not going to worry too much about that. It's this one here that I do worry about. Pull it and secure it. Bring this in here. Hopefully, when I put the side in, that will take up any extra fabric. So I'm only going to put a few securing staples in case I have to move anything. I don't want to go too far to the top. When I pull all of this in evenly across here, it does straighten out any of the wrinkles here, or most of them. I am going to put pins along the join of the piping here and here in a straight line with a little bit of tautness because I need to make sure that the back tacking that I'm going to use along here is in the right place. So I'll put my nail along there and then my pin all the way up and then all the way down. It's quite a long length. There we go there. Put an initial fold in and then the pins along there. Fold this over and into place. Pop that onto there like that so it's hidden. I really dislike using this stuff. Don't want to go in. I'll see if I can get that in a little bit better. Should be able to do that. Pull this up like this and start getting it in all the way along here. I'll come back and smack it in really hard in a minute. I'm just starting these off. Go back and really smack these in. When I'm happy with this, I'll go on to the other side. I'm going to cut into the side here and I'm going to cut a little bit more off the back, on the back side only to about there, then across the front. This part I'm going to fold underneath and into place and pull that and secure it. I'm going to ease this side back slightly and put glue in here. My staple gun just won't put the staples in the right place. Having done that, I'm going to pull that down and then push this fabric into place. So it should hold firm. Then I'm going to do it along the back here. So again, I'm just going to do the bit where the piping comes in, where the bottom of this side comes in. And again, I'm going to just pop all of that right into that groove. On the piping, I've cut in either side of the leg, and then I took a small sliver off all the way along. So let's fill this up yet again with some lovely old glue, like that, to the end there, and slot all of that in to place. Make sure it's nice and tight because you don't want it coming off, but you don't want it too pushed in either, otherwise it kind of disappears behind the leg, like that. And now I'm going to secure the piping down to the center. Here's the second side. I'm not pulling it too hard because I don't want it to look like it's gaping at the bottom, but if I pull this from the bottom up like that, I can see how well this top's going to go in. Put a couple of pins in just to hold it. I'm not pulling it very hard, I'm just smoothing it into shape. And as I come in, you might notice that from about here comes over the top of there by about 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to undo this, put a pin on the top there like that. That's where it's got to be pulled into there, and a pin here where it starts pulling out. And I'm going to just undo that little section, which is a little bit annoying. I might have to undo a little bit down there and see if I can pull that in better. That's going to take a little while. What I have to do is pull it back, pull this under, staple it, pull this under, staple it, pull this under, staple it until I get right to here. But that needs to go in a bit better than it has. Thank you for joining me on this little project. I think it's gone in quite well, and you can see why I chose this blue. We've got the cushion behind there. There's a little bit of wrinkling, which unfortunately sometimes happens when you do this style of back. I think all in all she'll be really pleased with it. I had 2 of these to do for my friend, and by doing it this way with the pattern repeats I saved her about 1.5 yards of fabric. So if that was say $60 a yard, it's nearly $100 that we saved. If you want to see more from me, hit the bell button, and a few thumbs up would be brilliant. And in the meantime, take care, see you later. Ciao.